I am Doug Friedman.
I am Kenzie Janest.
And this is Your Mental Breakdown.
The podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I always forget if we start talking right after because you put your hands on the little box thing and I just don't know what's going on.
We can do whatever we want.
Really?
Anything we want.
Anything?
Anything auditorily that you want. Go ahead and do it. Except
and now
that.
I'm
Except
freezing.
saying excessively.
Now I'm freezing.
God, you were saying that excessively.
Oh my God. You torture me. We've been talking for the last hour and then suddenly we record and it's like, what do we say?
Okay, clue me in on what
you don't know what OxyClean is.
No,
right?
I think OxyClean is like the astringent thing that you
Wait, you're
do
actually serious? You don't know what OxyClean is?
No, I know OxyPads, like when you used to do the OxyPads on your Stridex.
Where were you in the early 2000s and at 3 a.m. watching infomercials? No?
Clearly not watching infomercials at 3 a.m.
Dude, what was his name? Billy May?
No.
Hey, I'm Billy May, and this is OxyClean, and like, oh my God, we're going to clean all your clothes. No?
No.
What? It was like but wait, there's more kind of thing.
Oh,
okay,
like Ginsu knives, which you're like, huh? What are Ginsu knives?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
No, so this is like one of my cherished therapists, cardigans.
Sweaters?
Cardigans?
That is a very therapist sweater.
Right? It's
Yeah.
very academia. It's
Uh-huh.
giving professor at a college. Yeah.
It should have little...
the elbow pads.
That's right. That's right.
I would describe my style as like old professor at a college who reads only the classics.
Right?
Which we were talking about earlier. Yeah. So cardigans are, as we know, if you're a therapist or if you're a client, cardigans are the therapist's uniform.
Or as Kim used to say, Therwear.
Therwear. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So cardigans, I'd say, are like the number one Therwear item in Therwear.
Uh-huh.
This one I got at a thrift store and it's a cherished.
For 75 cents?
Cherished. Hell no. I wish. It was not Goodwill. It was some, curated LA thrift store. So it was probably
like
$30
$17. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But anyway, it was very stained and I tried to be a good Samaritan and not just get a new cardigan.
Mm-hmm.
So we had some OxyClean lying around and I said, does this stuff actually work? And I soaked it in OxyClean for like 4 hours and this thing is white. I mean, you tell me, right? I think it goes against like all of your values, but sure.
Not if my value is making money from people that are awake at 3 a.m. and looking for products to spend
like
money on.
Like a 13-year-old.
Sure.
Who's going to call up the 1-800 number to get OxyClean.
Do you know what a 976 number is? Nope, you don't.
Nope.
They were the cost like $6.99 a minute or something. Phone
Whoa.
call. Yeah, you could call.
That's expensive.
There were the naughty adult line ones, but then there was also like 976 joke and 976 this, and like
what?
you could just call that, but it would charge you like that much per minute.
Wait, for a joke?
Whatever the service was, the ad, it was called 976 joke or called 976 whatever.
Oh, hold on though. If we're calling 976 joke for someone on the other line to tell us a joke, is that someone's job?
I claim ignorance here because I don't know. It was either recorded.
I have to know now.
It was either recorded or, God, would it be? There were adult conversation ones, and I have to think that those were not recordings. Or maybe they were.
So we're talking about phone sex.
Yes.
Okay. But the jokes, I'm really hooked on this joke thing. Why?
Yeah, you could do that too. I'm saying 976 was not exclusively adult content. There was, right. It appealed to kids because kids were doing it and they had to like figure out parental controls on phones or how do you do this and how do you block that?
What kind of phone are we talking? Like a cell phone?
Rotary dial.
Rotary.
Cell phones did not exist, sadly.
Never.
In my childhood.
I have never used a rotary phone. It took me a while to actually like understand the concept. Like, how do you dial? No, really. I know I'm like, this sounds so stupid, but like, I didn't.
I mean, that's where
you have to
dial
go all the way back every time.
Listen to what you just said.
What?
How do you dial? What is a dial? A dial, right? That's what a dial is.
Oh my God.
Right?
Oh my God.
Hitting buttons on a flat screen is not dialing, it's pressing. Hey, later on, when it really sinks in, you should press me up.
What?
Press me on the phone.
Is that it?
No, that doesn't make sense. You say dial me up.
Well, I don't think, no. People say hit me up, Doug. Come on. Please get with it. Speaking of getting with it.
Oh, segue.
Yeah, we're going to be getting with it with Drew. Because Drew's cool. He's hip with it.
Before we get with it with Drew, let's get with it with you, listener. Our listener.
Oh, God, I thought you were talking to me.
No, our one listener out there.
Okay. Hi, listener.
Hi, listener. How's your week been?
Singling you out. Yeah, I hope you're good.
And let us know how you're doing.
We would love to.
You can email us at info@yourmentalbreakdown.com.
I see what you're doing now.
Right? See? That's the segue.
Yeah. Cool.
You can find us on social media, as did this person who has a question for us.
Oh.
You ready for this?
Wait, we haven't even gotten to the question yet?
No, we have not gotten to the question yet.
Oh my God.
This is a long opening, but you guys love it, right?
Uh-huh.
And if you don't, you know what? Tap that little thing and skip 25 seconds ahead.
Yeah.
And do that enough.
30.
And then you'll get to
a whole 30 seconds ahead.
A whole 30.
Ew. We're not talking about diets here. Okay.
No, okay. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. This one says, what do I do if I have a crush on my therapist and I don't want to tell them everything because it's embarrassing?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Ooh, juicy.
Well, okay. You think it's juicy because of the crush part. I think the embarrassing part. But
yes.
Go.
No, I mean, like on the surface, I'm like, ooh, a crush on that therapist, have fun, right. Juicy, yeah, erotic transference, ooh. Okay, but no, like I hear that, yeah. Well, I'm concerned that you don't feel comfortable telling your therapist everything.
Totally.
So that's really the main thing here, right?
Yep.
Because, my initial reaction is like, oh, you got to tell him. Like, even if you feel like you have a crush on them, you got to tell him. Like, see what comes of that, right? Like, what's going on there, right? No, what?
Well, no, I'm agreeing. I'm nodding in agreement. Like, yeah, that's the crush part of it. Like, yes. And I think that is something where you go, oh, this is weird. What does this mean? Because I'm having like crush feelings right now. Right. That's the crush side. But the other side, which I think is imminently relatable if you don't have a crush on your therapist. And sometimes your therapist might be a lot older than you or might be not the gender that you're attracted to. So that's like having a crush isn't the issue. Although some people do have crushes on older people, they develop that like...
Yes, well, that's... See, I'm still like, define crush because... Well, right.
So here's where I think we're moving away to the high school crush part. And the part where you go, oh, right, I'm developing some sort of intimate bond with this person and I don't want to mess it up. So I don't want to tell them something that might upset them.
Right.
Now we're talking about attachment, abandonment.
And the interpersonal process of like, what's the function of you holding back from somebody that you might like? Like, what does that mean?
Right.
That you feel like you have to hide a part of yourself because you are maybe scared of intimacy or scared of what you could say and be and do.
Or just scared of somebody seeing who you really are.
Yeah, the vulnerability of that. But that's what's important in therapy. That's the hardest part. Oh, and speaking of the session we're about to get into, right? We talk about like in relationships, like what's the best thing you can do is show up and tell the truth.
Right.
And therapy, especially, right? Like, literally show up and tell the truth.
Absolutely.
And yet that is so hard sometimes, especially if you have a crush on your therapist.
Right.
It triggers all these little tingly, weird feelings that we're like, maybe haven't felt in a long time, or we're like, what is this? You don't know what to make of that. This is my therapist. Like, it's very confusing and complicated.
And people, I've had this before where clients get possessive of their therapist. Like they don't want to hear about the therapist with other clients, or they don't want to refer people to that therapist because they're like, no, it's mine. It's my relationship.
Yeah, I'm the favorite, right?
Right. We want to protect that intimacy, right?
Yeah. But that's all stuff, at least the way I work as a therapist and even as a client, is let's talk about it. Like, I want to talk about all of that relational process stuff.
Which for us is really easy. That's what we were talking about for an hour before we started. Like, we are therapists. This is how we are. This is, we talk about
that's
stuff
true.
all the time.
Easy for us to say.
Right. Exactly. I think bringing that to the session, just going, I'm kind of embarrassed. I didn't want to tell you this because I wanted you to like me, or I wasn't sure how I would sound to you.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It takes some time to really be vulnerable or feel comfortable to be vulnerable, which is a huge theme that at least I would like to touch on in this upcoming Drew session.
Well,
because that's part of therapy, right? Is developing this like trusting attachment with somebody. But it is confusing. I think there's an inherent weirdness of like, oh, it's seemingly one-sided relationship, but like not really, you know, like they can't tell me much about them, but they can tell me a little bit, and I care about them. They care about me, but I only see them 1 hour a week. Like it's weird, but let's name that because it is weird.
Absolutely.
And what does this mean for you?
Right.
Listener who asked this question and everybody else who feels it, because you're not alone.
You are not alone. You are about to be with Drew and me still. I never leave you. I'm always here. Ugh. And I will be right back annoying the heck out of Kenzie and maybe entertaining you guys in a little bit.
If you're lucky.
We're all lucky.
We're just lucky to be alive.
Aww.
Hashtag blessed.
Were you trying to do heart hands and you missed?
You think this is heart hands?
No, that's why I said, and you missed.
I'm doing whatever this is.
I don't know.
I have a diamond-shaped heart.
Aw.
No, I'm special.
I have a club-shaped heart.
Good. This is all getting cut because we're making hand gestures.
And we will be back with you later.
Shortly.
That too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So, I'm sorry, what did you say? What's crack-a-lackin'?
Yeah, shit. Right? What's going on?
So hit me with what's going on with you, where you're at.
Hell yeah. Not everything is good. Mom's been a lot more involved in wanting to talk about baby and everything that's involved in. So that's been it's been interesting.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a good or bad. I'm happy she's involved, I should say. And haven't talked to my dad really since it's been a couple of weeks.
Right.
So, don't really know what's going on in his world. And they're supposed to be down here in 2-3 weeks, something like that. Meanwhile, we're trying to find a house still and everything that is under that umbrella. So we're trying to figure out where we want to kind of settle down. And it's been a fun conversation, actually, because it's kind of talking about where we really want to set our roots and where we want to be and why and what's best for us and, maybe not best for my family or her family, but what's best for our family and what that will be and is. And I think you'd be really proud of me and my finances. We've been saving like a motherfucker these last couple of months.
Nice.
And I feel very confident in maybe not where I'm at right now, but the trajectory of where I'm going with it. I think this is a really nice new foundation for my finances.
Right.
All in all, I feel like everything's pretty good. Lots of good stress right now. It's not, I was just going to say stress, but it's good stress for me right now. And then I was up in Anaheim yesterday seeing friends. We're actually knocking on the door of getting this production line finally done, and so I'm really excited for all of that.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a couple of things I hear in there that I want to reflect back to. There's something about the trajectory that you mentioned, and I like that you're not where you want to be right now, but you can see that you're moving in that direction. And it's, something we talk about all the time is seeing the forest, not just the trees.
Right.
Especially when it comes to finances. You were just looking at the tree right in front of you or the tree over there. And it was something you said, like maybe our first week of therapy was, I'm trying to manage like $500 dinners on a $300 a week budget. Right. And it was like, you can't have, and there was a lot of keeping up with and keeping appearances and how you thought you had to be in the fashion world and what you had to project and put out there versus what you can afford, what you can do, what's comfortable and what you want.
Right.
And I think you're coming to that now, not by virtue of trying to fit in with the fashion world, and not by virtue of trying to do what mom and dad want me to do or what their route was, but really kind of looking at what your route is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I've heard you become more independent.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel that.
Totally.
I just want to pause there for a second. What's that like hearing that back from me?
Yeah, it feels really independent. This is where my thought process went. And before I say it, I think I'm really blessed to be in a home where me and girlfriend are very 50-50 on it. It's not, I'm the man of the household, I make all the rules, and it's not, oh, well, I'm the woman of the household, so I make all the rules. Very good balance there. I think in finding the independence of what that is, it's allowing me, in virtue, to be the man of the household and make these big decisions and feel comfortable about it. Whereas before, I feel like I would have to check in with somebody, even going back to old girlfriend,
right?
I would be like, well, what do you want to do? Like, what should you do? I think it's allowing, maybe not even allowing, I'm just experiencing what it is to be independent and to be supported in independence.
Yeah. And that's, two words that are very similar, independent and individual. I'm going to challenge you on a couple of things, two things in particular.
Yeah.
But that difference between independent and individual, being an individual is knowing who you are, even knowing your own trajectory and not necessarily being influenced by what others want you to be, think you should be, what you think you should be, just being who you are, not following your dad's footsteps or doing what mom said so she's okay. It's doing me. And man in the house, woman in the house, you're an individual in the house.
Right.
That's different than independent. Independent is I don't need your help. I don't want your help. I don't want your support. You can have it sometimes, and still be independent. But there was something about the independence for you that was, they cut you off. I don't want anything from that. That had more force than just you finding your individuality and who and how you are.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The challenge is coming up, but what do you think of that piece? Does it feel different rather than just how you think, how you feel about it?
Yeah, I think I feel supported now. I almost feel like I'm not walking on eggshells anymore. I feel like I have a better footing in what I'm doing and what I want to be doing. I'm way ahead of where I was, and this isn't even where I want to be, but I'm still supported in chasing a dream and chasing what I really want to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and much love, because here comes the challenge.
Yeah.
And your parents want to be involved now because you're having a baby. Cool. You also hit 26. They cut you off. You had to figure out insurance. You just came through COVID and had a heart attack. Where the hell were they? Mm-hmm. Where was the support then? Where was the involvement then? It's something that you might have downplayed, but you had a heart attack at 26 years old.
Yeah.
That doesn't just happen.
Of course, my brain goes to finances and all of this. With me and my parents' relationship, I think it makes sense in my brain, and I think this is why I downplayed it. If I were to ask my parents for like a new car, for example, right, because of these and these reasons, and they're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, buy me a new car. Hey mom, I need $150 so that I can take this trip with so and so we can go experience something. Oh no, that doesn't fit into my agenda, quote unquote. I don't think we're gonna do that. I think the reason I downplayed it is because, one, it made no sense to me. I didn't really know what was going on. I kind of free falling throughout the situation and had nothing to grab onto.
Totally.
And I think within that is I've been in situations where I've been free falling and not knowing which way is up, and reached out for my parents' help, and I just kind of kept falling. I think it's one of those things where I've normalized it. It's a crazy conversation that we're having right now because it doesn't affect me like emotionally. It's not like, oh yeah, well my parents really let me down, so I'm gonna go cry about it. Whereas like I see my mom pick up a bottle of vodka and like that shit hurts. It's almost like right. As long as they're being good and fitting into my MO of judgment, then they can kind of do whatever they want and let me down in certain ways, and also pick, because they don't call me, they still don't really text me, and they don't make an effort to come see me. I was excited for them to come down, but that's because they have a work trip to come down for, not, oh, we're gonna come see you. Yeah, it's shitty, but I think I've normalized it so much from day one of my life that I don't know any better.
Yeah, it's shitty. That's a feeling. That's not just a thought. Mm-hmm. And I've normalized it. That's a defense, and that's necessary. We need to do that. I remember you talking about how brother got a really nice send-off, and he went to school, military school, and did this and did that. It was right around the time you and I were talking about how much cards mean, getting a card, right? And you got a really nice card from her. I think your dad just wrote, happy birthday, love Dad. But your mom wrote something that you loved. You really loved it, and you were like, that's the best present I could get. I'm like, sweet, this is it. This is my send-off. This is the acknowledgement. Yeah. My coming of age, I think you called it.
Right.
You remember what it was? $200.
Oh God.
Do you remember what you did with it?
Probably bought weed with it.
This was a little more noble.
Okay.
You gave it to a buddy who needed some help.
Oh, nice. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and you were like, "Hey, you know what?" And your reaction right there, like, "Hell yeah, nice." Because it like $200 doesn't make or break you, but it meant a lot to him. So for you to do that meant a lot for you.
Yeah.
And the card from mom meant a lot to you. Mm-hmm. So overall, the whole thing meant a lot, and it was a bummer and a letdown.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing from you right now, and that's what's been normalized. It's a bummer and a letdown. Yeah. And it's something that, I want to at least acknowledge. We can keep it normalized. We can keep it compartmentalized.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yep.
And we can carry on. and do what we need to do. I need to mark it though.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, it's going to be okay that it's like that. And it's not. You will find out when you see the birth of little Dougie, and you see him pop out. Right? You will know you'll do anything for him. And yet parents, your parents, did not do that for you, not just for the birthday, for a heart attack.
I don't know where I want to be on the whole thing. I want to pause for a minute and just kind of let this one sit for a second because it's new. I've never really thought about it like that. I think it's also a good time to kind of bring up my dad and his parents' relationship and watching what that was for them. And I want to talk about my mom and her parents' relationship too. But, you know, growing up, I wouldn't really see my grandparents that lived in Canada. My dad never really, to my knowledge, and I'm sure this is different because I'm sure he had phone calls that I don't know about and texts and emails and letters and all of that, right? But my perspective of the situation was that my dad just never talked to his parents. And then the other example that I had was my mom and her parents, and my mom and her dad talked 10, 12, 15 times a day, every day. And so I think on both ends, it was both extremes of, I'm not going to talk to you at all, but when I do see you, I'm going to love you like I saw you yesterday. And then the other one was, oh, I need to know that you love me, so I need to talk to you all the time.
Right.
And I think for me, you know, even growing up in my house, like my brother, he started leaving when he was 13, 14 to go to Canada to work on the summers. And no contact, right? Especially me and his relationship. It's not like he was calling me. And so I kind of look at all of that, and then I look at when I left home, basically for for the first time. You know, I never really had like big trips by myself or, you know, long month-long like things where I just went by myself or with friends or with groups that wasn't my family. And so when I left, I moved to LA, and that was kind of it. Like, I think back on it and I think about it nowadays, and it's like I don't really expect my parents just to like jump into my life now. You know, it's like nothing really just happened.
Right.
Like, I can't just have a baby for you to all of a sudden be involved 24/7, and that's not what I want. But I also don't want to not talk for months and just see each other and like no I love you. Right. And so trying to find that balance, you know, I think that's why I'm okay with the disappointment of them not being there, because I know they're there, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense with what you were just saying, because I know they're there. I don't need 12 calls a day to reassure me that they're there. You did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's part of, you know, becoming your own individual and feeling your independence, yet still having support. You know, and it's also recognizing what kind of support you have. You know, if you want them for certain things and you know they'll be there, awesome. If you know they're not going to be there, so you're realistic about it. But just looking at, you know, your grandparents and the relationship your parents had to their parents and seeing that dynamic helps understand how they are with you. What I hear you actively doing, Drew, is looking at your family of choice. And it's looking at who I choose to have around me. And that's, I think, a function of not just what got normalized and what's routine, but what I really want and what I need, not as a reaction to things. Because if you were looking at family of choice a couple years ago, it would have been enmeshed and codependent. I mean, the kid that would cry when he went to preschool, come a long way.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
Right? And I would hope so.
I feel like that kid from preschool isn't too far gone. You know what I mean? Like, I almost feel like, that was 21 years ago, but I feel like the mentality of what that was really like 5 years ago.
Okay, so that mentality, where was that when you had your heart attack?
I just didn't really care. I didn't have the care to say, Mom, I need help, and like I did, you know, and like you've heard it, you know, I reached out and I needed help and I wanted to figure it out, and it was stressful and it was this and it was that, but you know, at the end of the day, I'd be lying if I said like this was a really devastating event for me. It was a big event and it changed the way I saw a lot of things, but it wasn't a devastation type event where watching my mom walk out of my preschool and not turn around was. That was devastating.
Yeah. And ironically, there was something about when you were going through it, downplayed maybe, but I got the sense, whether it was accurate or not, that you felt you were going to be okay.
Yeah. I don't think I'm good. I still need to go through the process, and I'm doing it on my time. And I think that's another pat on my own back of like, I mean, the only help I've had in all of this is really you, of like conversing and talking about it and going through the process and figuring it out. It's not my mom calling me and being like, hey, just checking in. Like, where are we at with the whole heart attack thing? We haven't talked about it.
Right.
They have not mentioned it. They haven't even spoke about it.
How is that for you? Just saying that.
Feels very worldly. It feels very that I'm in the world and that's just kind of how it is. And I'm not unrealistic about it. Like, I don't think my parents don't care. You know, I don't think that's the conversation, but I also don't think that for the amount of times they have dropped everything and ran to my rescue, I think this is the one where they should have and didn't.
Yeah.
It's not a make or break for me in their relationship. You know, I completely understand, and they've been there immensely for me growing up and all this shit. If I did die throughout any of this, they would have been devastated on a whole different level than, oh, my boy died. They would have been like, oh, my boy died, and I did nothing about it.
Right. Absolutely. And, you know, knock on wood, that's not going to happen.
I'm not going anywhere.
And there's something that I want to highlight. As you're saying this, what you're describing right now, understanding where they were, how they've been with their parents, how they've been historically with you, it explains a lot of it, doesn't excuse it. And I think at the crux of it, you hit it. I will take half credit for me being the one that was there with you. There was someone else there. It's the huge cliche in all this, right? You know who that was.
My first instinct is girlfriend, but I could be completely wrong on that. Because she was there in a lot of ways too.
And it's interesting because that, to me, that was a function of you also. Because that was during a time when you guys weren't doing great.
True.
The other one that was there for you is you.
Yeah.
And that speaks to independence, not individuality.
Right.
And maybe all of this, you know, that I'm pushing at is a function of you truly becoming more independent and feeling that. And you can rely on yourself instead of rely and depend on others.
In my brain, I'm picturing Green Beret and Boy Scout and where the pendulum is, right? And I think it's actually kind of cool. I just talked about this like 2-3 days ago. And I think right now I'm very Green Beret with all the Boy Scout tools.
If you remember when we first talked about it, you know, I think you know where I'm going. I said, like, look, you can be Green Beret, but if you know it's going to rain, you bring a poncho.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I hear you saying, like, I'm very Green Beret because I know I can handle everything, but you know what? I'm going to check the weather before I go.
Right.
As you're going to become a father, because it's looking at, oh, I know I can handle anything, and yet I'm still going to be prepared.
Now in that, I'm very comfortable in asking for help, which I wasn't not too long ago. I am not one that's like, yo, man, like, I'm not good in this area of my life right now. I need some help. You know, and I think that is becoming a lot stronger in me. And in virtue, I feel a lot better and a lot more supported because I'm asking for help.
It was interesting because I remember times with friend, you know, you calling him when you just needed him.
Right.
You know, or him showing up sometimes just to be there. You didn't need him to take care of everything.
Yeah.
You just needed a connection. You were looking for that old Drew that needed reassurance, that needed that 12 calls a day to tell me you love me, because if I don't have that, I'm not loved. Right? You were looking for that sometimes, but you have kind of come more around to, no, I'm good. I'm okay. I just wanted a little connection.
I think what I've realized in my adulthood life is how important connection and relationship is. And we talked about that for a long time. You know, that's nothing new. But I think the new aspect of what that is I don't have to buy relationships, and I don't have to be somebody for somebody else. We're going back to day one. The more vulnerable and authentic I can be, the more genuine connections I've found that I've had.
Yeah.
I think now going full circle of like, I really do feel like I'm encompassing what it is to be vulnerable and authentic and to be myself and to let that be known.
I want to touch something. Here's sort of the second thing I said. Remember I said I was going to challenge two things?
Yeah.
And I'm formulating this one. So go with me here.
Okay.
Because there's something I don't know about yet. And that's, and I might never, and that's girlfriend and what she's gone through in her growth and her process. You've seen it more, but neither one of us can be inside of her head or inside of her skin. We don't know. But there's a story from a year ago or more where this is a girl whose choices you didn't agree with, especially as how she was raising her son and what she was exposing him to somebody who did you dirty twice. And by all indications, you know, I remember when you guys were separated and you were like, yeah, I don't know how I want to have her in my life. And you were really working hard to not just go, nope, don't want her in my life at all. Bye. Or let me fawn. Let me pay attention. Let me, you know, smother her and get her back. You were walking that middle back then. The growth part is maybe she's gone through that growth. You guys have gone through that growth together. It's brought you stronger. You've kind of alluded to that. And the challenge part is she's shown you her colors. And you're having a kid with her and moving in with her and getting a house. What's up with that?
Yeah.
What's that smile? Talk to me. That's the challenge. That's the challenge.
Because it's, I know it's crazy, and I know it on the outside looking in might not be the quote unquote right choice. And I think that's why it's so the right choice for me, because it's exactly what I want and exactly where I want to be and exactly who I want to do it with. And going through everything that we've gone through in the last year, you know, it's been a while since it took a downward spiral, but I know there's going to be more of that in my life. I'm not naive to the fact that, oh, we just got it all out of the way in the first 6 months. That's not how I more so think that there's going to be more of that, and we're going to have more challenges, and there's going to be more things down the road in our lives that we're going to have to come face to face with. I don't consider that cheating. You know, I'd be very upfront about that. Like, if she ever cheats on me again, I'm fucking done, and I'm never looking back. I'm taking my kid, and I'm out. And we've had that conversation, and we both know where that stemmed from, and you know, where that was and where we were and what was going on both sides and why. And we've had that conversation hundreds of times, right? To your point, you can't be in my head when I'm having that conversation with her. And with all the challenges, we've very gracefully been able to navigate what those have been for both of us. And that's what I want. You know, I think at the end of the day, I want somebody that tries and somebody that fights for me. And, you know, like, I make a lot of mistakes too. Clearly, you know about most of them. But, you know, like, it's like I'm on the worst end of people as far as making mistakes and what that is, and here and there, and being able to be shown grace in what that is has allowed me to not dip out or to fawn over somebody and kind of be in that middle ground and play the patient game. And I think that's my biggest lesson that I've learned over our course of the last couple of years, of not just jumping into something because emotionally I feel like it's right. Being able to take the time and to stop and think about it and assess the situation and where am I, where is she, where are we, what's going on, all of that together, I think has really allowed me to be in a non-codependent relationship. It is the type of relationship where I can be completely honest. You know, like, there is no one thing where I'm like, oh yeah, well, like, I haven't told her about this. You know, it's like, nah, dude, like, it's all out there. And I couldn't say the same for my parents, you know? And I think that that's my favorite thing about it.
That's my favorite thing about you in this relationship, because you really are showing up vulnerably as yourself. I think I told you this a while ago. Somebody said to me, the best thing you can do in a relationship, it's easy. You just show up and tell the truth. Mm-hmm. That's it. Mm-hmm. And that involves sometimes a lot of fear, which means a lot of courage. And it's being comfortable with you. And you and girlfriend are learning as you go and growing as you go. That's why I say I don't know her, but I can only assume and think that she's grown too. When you say, yeah, if she cheats on me again, I'm out. I'm take my kid. I'm out. I think that's your boundary.
Yeah. And it's not an emotional, I'm not like banking our whole relationship on that. And if that were to happen, well, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to fuck your life up on the way out. And I'm going to do this and do I'm going to take mine and I'm out. I think the biggest transition we've had too is I'm a happy person. I have my downtimes, of course. Everybody does. But I've realized that I don't find what makes that happiness tick in me in her. If she has a bad day, it's not that I have a bad day. If she has a good day, I don't bounce off of that. And like whatever day she's having, I don't have that too. If the worst thing in the world happens and that's where we go, I'm still going to be happy.
Yeah. And that's, I like that. That's actually independence. How I feel and how I am isn't dependent on how someone else is. That's huge. That's internal. That's tremendous growth, really. Because that's you were 180 degrees from that before.
If shit really hits the fan and everything just takes a turn for the worse, I'd still find happiness in whatever that is.
You know what I really respect about you? We talked about it a few months ago about, I like when you challenge me. Okay.
Yeah.
I had a couple of challenges in my head for today.
Yeah.
I didn't know if they'd come up, and they did, and we went to them, and they didn't devastate you. A year and a half ago, if I challenged you on these, you would like, oh, right. I mean, like, you're laughing, right?
Yeah.
You are an independent individual now that can take these in, think about these things, and kind of go, well, hang on, I'm going to push back here. I'm going to agree here. I'm going to disagree there. Okay, I'm cool. That's ego strength, my friend.
Yeah.
That's you.
Yeah. It's cool.
I'll give you multiple choice. Either A, that's cool, which you said. B, that's sick. Or C, that's gangsta.
I'm going to go C. That's gangsta. Yeah.
Right. I'll go D, all of the above, because it really is.
I think this is a good time to say thank you, in all of this, because, I have so much fun in our sessions, whether I'm laughing, crying, somewhere in between. I think no matter what, I grow some way or another every single time. And I think, you've talked about growth a lot in this session and where I've been and where I'm going and here and there. And I think along the ride, like, you're helping me grow, and I can't appreciate that enough. I'll take it as far as like even our conversation 2 weeks ago of talking about finances and taking it slow and let's talk about it first and like just talk to me. I think that's the biggest thing in my life where I can fully trust what this is and the ability in you to now turn it into me, that it's full circle. I think a lot of this is me doing the work in the other 6 days, 24 hours that I have, or 23 hours that I have in the week. But in this 1 hour that we do have together, it's given me the Green Beret that I didn't, like, it's like my training school of Green Beret to now go be a Boy Scout.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm more happy now than I think I ever have been.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Period. And you've been doing the work. What you do, the other 23 hours of the day, the other 6 days of the week, is grow and allow yourself to grow. You're also doing this publicly. Doing this on the podcast means a lot of people are going through the growth with you, and it really resonates with them.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. You're giving back in that way, which is what we talked about before day one, right?
Yeah.
I'll take the thank you, period.
Fuck yeah.
And I appreciate that. And of course, I'm going to spin it back to you and go, you're doing the work and it's your life and you're growing. I'm happy and blessed to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And it's you. Come a long way, man.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. And all you had to do is name that kid after me. I'm kidding.
No, I love the subtle ones today though, of like little Dougie, this and that. Hey man, we're looking for names, so I'll throw it in the mix. I will give you that. I will definitely throw it in the mix. No promises, but I'll throw it in.
And we're back.
Hey, little Dougie.
Right?
What is up, little Dougie?
Aw, what's crack-a-lackin', Kenzie?
Aw, Drew. Okay, but this session really speaks to how close you two are now. And like, wow, it's one of those sessions where he comes in and he's not reeling over something. He's like, things are actually pretty good. And it's like, okay, cool. We have some options of things we can work with, right? Like this happens sometimes in therapy. Like you're like, I have a few ideas of things we could talk about, but like you tell me what's going on, you know, and we'll see if we get to them.
Right.
And he is excited for his trajectory now.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't know if you notice. I'm sure you do because you're his therapist, but he does oscillate. He tends to oscillate between like, I hate being an adult and I'm freaking depressed. And then like, oh, I'm kind of excited. This is pretty chill. Yeah. I could do this. Adulting
that's
thing.
Life.
That is life.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad we
He
covered
does say early on, he says something that I thought you would grab.
Well, maybe I did.
Oh, well, let's see.
Let's see.
Should you say it or should I say it?
No, you say it first. Go.
He says, you'd be really proud of me.
Yeah, of course. Of course. But that's something I feel like we've talked about ad nauseum at this point, no? But maybe with Sarah. So with Drew, it's a little different, right? Like you'd be really proud of me is different than, talking about Sarah and her like cult leader kind of people pleasing thing. With him, it's more so like, hey, look at me, almost dad figure or like, mentor figure. I am becoming an adult. Are you proud of me, Daddy?
Right.
I'm independent.
Right.
I'm becoming more independent.
And if you take my idea of all I'm doing as a therapist most of the time is reflecting back to them their own values and their self.
Yes, you are the mirror.
So then him saying you'd be really proud of me is his way of saying, hey, I'm really proud of this. Check this out.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that Drew does a lot?
Smoke cigarettes.
Well, and weed.
Yeah, that too.
Yes. And he says in virtue. You know what I mean? Because you often say something like, blah, 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 by virtue of doing this, right?
Right.
It's just a point, like, he does respect you so much and appreciate you and admire you so much, I think, that he takes on some of your, like, vernacular, like some of your verbiage,
Yeah, and by virtue of that, he is...
Oh, my God. But it's funny because he says in virtue, and I think that's really, like, it's almost endearing because it's like, oh, like he doesn't even consciously realize he's doing it, right? And it doesn't matter that it's like not technically grammatically correct, but like it means something to him because he took it from you.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just kind of sweet.
It looks like it's tickling you. Like, wow, look at the relationship that you have with your client.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yes. And then with that, cool, we get to, later you'll hear it, we get to challenge him.
Oh, you mean my favorite line?
Oh.
Much love, because here comes the challenge. I don't know why that is so funny to me. It just really hits me in the giggles because you're like, yeah. Much love, homie. But like, here comes the challenge. Like, here it comes. Here comes the actual therapy.
Yep.
Because we cannot just like bask in, I mean, as a therapist, I do wonder like, oh God, like sometimes should we just bask in the good? Because like you have made progress and you're feeling more independent. And let me remind you, motherfucker, as you said last time, you had a heart attack at 26.
Right.
And you are not hesitant to remind him of that, Doug.
Yeah, I pushed on that. And there were two things I think going on with that, at least. There might have been more. Like we say, there's so many different directions you can go.
Yes. Right? Yeah. Choose your adventure.
Right. Oh, I love those books. So part of that, the gravity of I had a heart attack, I don't know has really hit him. Yeah. And that's his like, no, I want to stay blissfully ignorant to that.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
That's one big piece. The other piece is something that we did get to in this and why I was kind of going much love and here's the challenge. I'm like, dude, your parents, where the hell were they in this?
Right.
Like,
that's the important thing.
How is it that, and this is being an empath, I can reflect this to him. And I think that, I know that that's effective. And that's my way of doing this piece of therapy.
Yeah, you do
which
this
is,
a lot.
Wow, I'm like, if I'm having this reaction, I'm having these feelings, what's going on over there on the other side of the room?
I do that a lot too. I think when clients don't want to, or maybe can't access, or they're avoiding it, right? In a sense, like they can't identify, or they don't want to identify or become aware of those very real feelings that they're feeling. Right. So hearing someone else external saying it and owning it is like, oh, shit, you're right. Like you're right. That's exactly how I'm feeling.
Yeah,
like,
you'll notice.
It's okay to feel that way.
Absolutely is, right? And it kind of normalizes it for them by hearing us have the emotion and have the experience. And something that I think you'll notice with him, with Sarah, with all of my clients, if you get to listen to all of their sessions, which you don't,
nope,
that they'll go, wow, God, hearing it back, now I think this.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what reflective listening is. We're listening to something and we reflect it back to them so they can hear it.
Spicy hot take. That's fun, actually. I didn't really think about that, but that's kind of the cool privilege they have, maybe, if that's the right word, for these clients, these two clients that you use for the podcast, because use is not a good word, but like the two clients that you have on the podcast, they have the privilege, luxury, whatever, the opportunity, the benefit.
Opportunity.
To, opportunity is good. Thank you, because it's neutral. Yeah. To listen to themselves and other therapists and you, again, break down what was going on. So it is like double therapy. I think Sarah even calls it double therapy, right?
Totally.
But yeah, to be able to listen to yourself, that's interesting, because I don't think a lot of people get that.
I would not want to hear my own set. Well, actually, that's not true.
See? Okay, maybe you would.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe I would, because then
we would analyze it. We would totally get into it. And it's, in the same way that people were like, have asked me before, like, what's your therapist like? And can you be your own therapist? And how would that work? Like, I wonder if I heard my therapy session, if I would have ideas of, or if I could separate.
Like how to help yourself, or how to be your own. Well, some people nowadays this is an old school of thought, but like the whole self-psychology thing, like some people do want to be your own therapist, whatever. But this is a different thing.
We digress.
I do think it would be cool. And it's funny whenever you bring up the heart attack, there is a kind of immediate defense mechanism coming up for him, which is like, if anything, I wonder if he was really just in shock during that time in his life. And not that it's like a repressed memory or anything, but I think he was just in so much shock that he couldn't really, while he was in it, maybe couldn't pay attention to everything else that was going on, like the way his parents were responding, or, he didn't want to admit it and actually see it for what it was. Like, whoa, my parents are not here for me right now. And
if you think about what happens during a trauma, and I'm not necessarily saying this was a trauma for him, big T or little t,
because
whatever.
It's all subjective and he doesn't see it that way.
Exactly. However, if we just think of what a trauma is for you and the function of that and what happens, a lot of times you kind of separate from the experience.
You dissociate that's going
right. You dissociate. You're not really there, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at.
Right. Then when you go back and look at it, then you can kind of look at, oh, wow, this was going, wait, and where were my parents? You're right.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
And that's going back to like reflecting back to them and being like, well, this is how I would have felt maybe, or how I kind of experience you feeling right now thinking about this. But I also, I think you're right and he's right. He is a little... I
don't think we're right. I think we're effective.
Okay. Oh my God. Semantics. See, I could follow that trail, but I'm not going to. It's possible that he also was just older and could handle it better, right? Like he says, but it's a little defensive, right? A little bit. Because I'm also like, is he rebelling a little bit here? Because there's kind of this childlike quality, I think, that comes out in him where he still thinks he's invincible. There's even a part towards the end of the session where he's like, I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
And I'm like, bro, yes, you are. We're all going somewhere. We're all going to die. Right. But maybe that's, the existentialist in me who's just like, no, we have to face death. Like, we can't avoid that.
Yeah. We've gone there. We've talked about the existential anxiety.
Yeah, we have.
And we've talked about the forest and the trees with him.
Yeah, that's true.
It was interesting. He made, I think, a really important distinction in talking about how his parents let him down. The heart attack was like, whatever. He didn't even notice that they let him down for that.
At the time,
And saying like, well, it wasn't like they showed up, drunk to a football game, or this. It wasn't like, we talked about downplaying it and was like, dude, why are you downplaying this? And it wasn't a specific event that meant something to him that they didn't follow through with or that they didn't participate in.
Right.
Right. So for him, it was slightly different in that there wasn't a build up to something where he's looking forward to this and wants to share this. And then, then he's let down.
Fell flat. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's really speaks to what we were saying about the subjectivity about, mental health and just like life, because people are going to make meaning out of different events, and some are going to go completely unnoticed on whatever, it doesn't matter. And then other things, like what you just said with mom showing up drunk or something like that, right? Like it's going to be hugely quote unquote traumatic for somebody.
Because he said it too, like, I think I've normalized it so much from day one of my life that I don't really know any better. And that's something I reflect back to clients a lot, is that even though you normalized it, doesn't mean it's normal.
Right. It feels normal to you, but it doesn't actually make it okay. And it doesn't negate the impact that it had on you.
Right.
I think about this a lot actually with adult clients, in therapy, and myself included as a client, realizing the pain of parental stuff, right?
Sure.
Realizing the pain of what parents, caregivers caused. And I use cause lightly because that's part of the problem here. And I'm getting very meta, but like, we don't want to blame our parents, right? Like it kind of feels uncomfortable, or it's the opposite, right? Where
you see me reacting?
Yeah, I do.
Because, I think sometimes we really do want to blame our parents. Right. We want to blame somebody, but
that's true.
I think what your point is, it might not be intentional, and it might not be malevolent. Like it might just be, you might have been what you thought was the best parent around, and we're doing great, and yet still something you did or did not do impacted the kid, and they carry it around, and it leaves this huge impression on them.
Right. And it's kind of this balanced perspective that I think we try to have as we become adults, where we realize, okay, our parents were humans too. There is no guidebook, blah, blah, blah. We realize their flaws as we get older, which is crushing during multiple, events where we have to face that fact that they are human and have flaws and limitations.
Right.
And then we get older, right? And we're like, okay, but I haven't actually processed or maybe realized how all of that affected me. And I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm speaking more personally here. Like, I don't want to blame my parents for everything. I'm very resistant when my therapist tries to bring up stuff from like my parents and my past, because I'm like, it's fine. I'm over it. I've accepted it for who they are. Like, it's fine.
Right.
But what you say and what's really important, and I taken from you, is like, it explains it, it doesn't excuse it.
That's right.
Like, yeah, we're not here to just blame everything on your parents, which I think a lot of people think therapy is, right? But yeah, undoubtedly it had an effect on you. They're your caregivers.
Totally.
Whether it was positive, negative, everything in between.
Yeah. And I think in the case of Drew, you might also want something, whether it's the little Drew version of you or the big Drew version of you, that wants something from your parents to just acknowledge your existence pretty much, right?
Yeah, just to be seen.
Right. I mean, he talks about like when he moved to LA and he didn't talk to his parents for a while. And he's like, yeah, I don't really expect them to jump back into my life now, but this is a bummer. Yeah, this is disappointing. And he kind of finally gets to that place of like, yeah, this is, it might not have been like the big letdown that, I wanted, my parents in the stands and my mom was drunk. I'm let down.
Yeah.
It was more just like, I'm disappointed.
Yeah. And it's not that all or nothing thinking that I think he would have had. I think he even says, like a year ago, if he didn't get what he wanted from his parents or whatever, it would be like childlike meltdown almost, right? Like I need so much more.
Right.
And now he's kind of adulting and becoming more independent and figuring out his own way, and like, okay, I can have this balanced perspective of, okay, my parents have their flaws. This is how they can support me and be included in my life. There's boundaries here. And I'm also my own. Well, now we're segueing into the topic of independence, because I had a lot of questions on this, but my own, what is the word I'm looking for?
Well, just my own period.
Person.
My own. Yeah. And it's something, kind of what you were describing is what you were asking me about a few weeks ago, because you didn't hear the original version of this when Drew picked it up and loved it, that 10% disappointment.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's some disappointment there. That's okay.
Yeah, it's realistic. We're going to have a little.
I have some disappointment in my parents, and I'm still going to be my own, whatever we decided you're going to be.
Yeah. I'm like, you're a whole person on your own. And this is, I think, a good segue into like independence versus, I know you say independence versus like individualism, right? Or individuality.
Sure.
But I also think in terms of independence and like interdependence, like when is it important to also consider your relationships with other people and not become hyper independent where it's like, I am completely self-sufficient, because I don't want to just reduce that down to a trauma response. But I think a lot of people with maybe complex trauma or attachment figure type of trauma, they do resort to a hyper independence that feels safer and feels empowering, maybe even, but it can be an avoidance tactic to like not get closer to people or to not rely on people because it's scary and you've been let down before.
Yeah, it's a protective mechanism for sure. Yeah. And you might not want to be vulnerable because when you're vulnerable, you could get hurt. When you're vulnerable, you can also be met, and it's amazing. Yeah. And it's finding that interdependence, like you said. It's funny. Kim used to say, we call Beckett Cody or Indy. And it would be Cody when he's codependent and he's all over us and wouldn't leave us alone.
Yeah.
And he's independent. He's Indy when we'd be like on the couch watching TV and he'd just get up and go to bed and like go into the bedroom on the bed. Like, where are you going, Indy? What's up, Indy? What's up, Cody?
Him having, both of those names implies that like he's interdependent, or he's got that balance of like, hey, I need you. And I also am okay alone sometimes. Like I can do both. I don't know. To me, I'm like, lately, I've been thinking, I feel like that's kind of the goal, right? I think in some ways, as a culture, we kind of swung to like, let's be super self-sufficient and self-care, self-love. Like it's all about me, but also relationships, like the collective.
That's funny. I mean, maybe I guess I'm older than you. Well,
you guess?
Hey, easy there, young one. I was saying, I think there was something in my youth that might have agreed with that and echoed that. But now where I am is, well, of course it's interdependence. Why wouldn't it be? I mean, duh.
Yeah. Okay. So it's almost a given. Like, duh, we are social creatures, but also we have to have some agency and autonomy and
And I don't know if I'm saying like duh and it's always been duh, or if it used to be, wait, but no, it needs to be this. I need to be independent. I need to do my own thing. You know, I don't know.
Because when you said that, it felt like this almost childlike rebellion of like, I don't need anybody else. I'm fine on my own.
Right.
I'm self-sustaining. It's like, but no, you're not, because we're all social creatures who have ripple effects on the world.
So there's something I talk about with some clients. It's Native American culture. They call it the circle of courage. And it's sort of the process that you go through, the wheel of life and of growing, right? And it starts out with, you go sort of on this quest to become independent and break off from the main group or the tribe or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you have to have a sense of mastery in something to feel that independence, right?
Okay.
Then you go and you have that experience, and there's something about being able to eventually come back to the group and share that and give that back, the generosity phase where you're
cool.
sharing what you've learned. And it's really cool.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like we have that in our Western culture, right? Our very Western individualistic culture, at least in America, right? Where it's like, separate from your parents or your family at 18, go to college, become an adult, do your thing, major in something, work in a very specific, like your work is your identity now. That's your specialty. That's your thing. And then, there's a certain developmental stage where you kind of want to give back, right? And you teach others what you've learned with your wisdom, right?
Exactly. And that's what, I just looked it up because I was butchering it, but the circle of courage, it says there's 4 growth stages that we go through as children developing, right? One is belonging. Of course. That's what school is all about. Like, I need to fit in. I need to belong. I need to wear the nice cardigan that's OxyCleaned white, right?
Yes. I need people to respect me and to see me.
Then we go into the phase of mastery. I need to be good at something. I need to feel like I'm good, whatever that is. Then it's independence, where I'm good at this thing. Now let me go out there on my own and do it. I don't want help from parents. Leave me alone. Let me do it. Let me show my mastery. Let me experience this. Let me make my money. Let me have my career, whatever that is. Then it's the generosity phase where you come back and you go, now I can give back. I can share what I've learned, and I'm cool, right?
I like it. And I'm like, I don't know if it's that linear and that clear cut. Like, I think people probably kind of segue or switch from one phase to another.
I mean, that's like, to me, any sort of model like this is like, here are the here are the 5 stages of grief. Well, there's 7 stages, and they're not linear. And
right.
There's
you
actually
might not
12,
feel one, but you'll feel all the others. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. He says he feels very worldly when you ask him how he's feeling after you talk about all this stuff. And I was like, I kind of giggled a little bit because I'm worldly. What the hell does that even mean? You know what I mean? And then he said, he just feels like he's in the world. And I was like, okay.
Right.
Okay. Like, yeah, I see you. Like, he feels like an adult, like a person living in the world, being realistic, right? Like, okay, back to like my parents have their limitations. I have to be a little more independent now. I'm adulting. I have a baby on the way. I feel worldly. I'm living in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing. I was like, oh, okay, Drew.
I mean, your semantic brain probably went, that's not what that means. But hearing him explain it, that's what I was just talking about, that idea of mastering independence. That's both of those things wrapped in one. Right? Where he's going, oh, I feel like I'm in the world and like I can function. Because it came on the heels of us saying, well, yeah, what about your mom not checking in with you all the time? And he's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm okay. I feel world like I'm a part of the world.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all these stages. I belong in the world. I have that sense of belonging. I have some mastery because I'm doing it on my own. And that means I'm independent. Cool.
Yeah. I also wonder though, I think with Drew, especially because he is the avoidant, not the avoidant type. I don't want to label him like that, but sometimes he'll avoid his feelings, right? Or he'll kind of brush past some maybe significant things.
Right.
There are times where, like that part that you just said about mom, like, oh, if she doesn't call me a bunch of times, like, I'm good, I'm fine. And then we're talking about his relationship, his romantic relationship later. And he's like, yeah, if she left me, like, I'd still be happy. And you're like, yeah, cool. And I'm like, really? Really? Are we going to take that at face value? Because I just don't know. But the question really, I guess, Doug, is like, how do you know when you can just take what they say at face value versus I'm going to challenge that a little bit because like, really? You think you'd be happy? Or maybe it's just like not necessary for what we're talking about right now in the session.
Yeah, maybe it's a little of that, like kind of like pick your battles. And it's not necessarily a battle, but it's pick your discussions and pick the things that you're going to explicate and look at and really like kind of get into. And okay, that wasn't one that we needed to poke right there.
Yeah, but maybe a pin for something later.
Maybe a pin. And it could be something that, oh, you know what? Yeah, I should have pinned that. And this is one of the benefits of hearing sessions that I've done in the past. I can go, oh, okay, yeah, I missed that. Let me bring that up with him. Cool.
Right. And that's on patterns, right? That's what I think of as a newer therapist. Like, okay, how do you know when to touch on something and when it's worth it and when it's not? And it's like, usually if it becomes a pattern, right? If we keep seeing it or we keep saying it. It's okay.
And that's also, we talk about me being so repetitious in sessions, right? Or repetitive.
Yes.
And
redundant. I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't go that far.
No.
But it works the other way. We notice when clients are repeating things.
Yeah.
Right? And we pick up on it. That's partly how we see patterns. That's what a pattern is.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the exact same phrase, which I do because I want that phrase to land.
Yeah.
It's, oh, I'm seeing this way of being for them.
A belief, a thought, an affect, like a relational pattern. It can be so many different types of patterns.
Right.
Yeah. Kind of wrapping it up, I guess, if that's okay with you, Doug.
Kenzie, speak for I've had enough of you, Doug.
No, I just feel like we've been going on for so long and I could just keep talking to you forever.
Well, we're almost out of time for today, but was there anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, I have one more question. Okay. May I ask? It's actually not a question. It's more of a comment.
It's more of a statement. Here it is.
My proclamation. Okay, speaking of independence, right? At the end, I think we kind of conclude it's Drew's independence that allows him to take your challenges, right? He's made so much progress. He's grown. He can take the challenge that you throw at him in session. And I'm like, yes. And isn't it also because he trusts you and you have such a secure attachment now?
Oh, for sure.
That interdependence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. A big part of what therapy is providing this secure attachment for somebody.
But I'm wondering why we don't name that, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm too big on the interpersonal process and really naming like what we're doing in the room. I don't know. I eat that meta shit up. But like, I just wonder, we're highlighting his independence. And maybe that's because it's kind of the theme of the session and we want to tag that as his progress and independence. And that's what he's wanted for a while.
Right.
But I think also showing him that, hey, look, you can have a healthy relationship with an adult or a person, right? You can have a healthy interdependent relationship where someone cares about you and also challenges you. Because I don't know if he's getting that from his parents. Okay,
so what I know of him is he is exploring that for himself in his relationships. And I pushed at that a couple of times in this by talking about when all of this stuff was going down, like with the heart attack, and parents let you down or they weren't there. Like, who was there?
Right.
And he went, oh, my girlfriend. Like,
right.
Oh, I was going with you. You were there for yourself.
I forgot
I was going to hit the independence thing and that. Yeah. And he went to girlfriend. And I'm kind of going, okay, I know he has a history of codependence where he seeks the reassurance from a girlfriend and he wants that.
Totally.
Right?
Okay. I'm here with you.
I'm looking at that part and I'm kind of going, all right, that's there. And well, is she safe because she's cheated? And he even says something like, yeah, if she cheated on me now, that's it.
Right.
Done.
Well, yeah, that's where he's like, I'd be fine if she left.
Right.
I'm like, no, you wouldn't.
Right. Well, he wouldn't.
In a way, yeah. I was waiting for him to be like, okay, fine. I'd be upset and crushed at first, but then I'd be okay, you know, which I think is what he meant.
Right. Which if I left right now and went, hey, we're done. No more.
Right.
Pause for the trash truck.
Fucking trash truck.
Lifting the bin, dumping the bin, putting the bin back down.
Narrating.
Driving away, accelerating uphill.
This is my favorite audiobook.
And the truck is cleared.
NPR, welcome back.
If I left him right now, he would not be okay. And I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't even threaten to do that. I might, as an exercise, say, okay, this isn't real and this isn't going to happen. But what do you think would happen if I said, hey, we've got to stop our sessions right now?
Ooh.
Right?
Don't you do something like that?
I probably.
Yeah.
I do that with clients every now and then because I'm looking at like, well, if I went away, what would happen? What I'm trying to get at is, wait, but you're a secure attachment. You can't do this. And oh my gosh, that would, and I wouldn't abruptly do that.
Right.
If we're playing that out, I might go, well, if that were to happen, it wouldn't happen that way because we have a secure attachment. We'd have a transition plan and we'd put that in place and then we'd walk through that and we'd do that.
We'd have a healthy breakup.
Exactly.
With confrontation and
conscious
talking
uncoupling.
About it. Right. Yeah. Oh my God.
And it's something that I'm highlighting in a way that is indirect and not naming it. We have a secure attachment. When you have a secure attachment, you feel secure.
And when you have a secure attachment with somebody, you are thus able to feel independent because it's that interdependence, I think, that allows you to feel like okay to like, you know, that secure base in which you can like jump off from to feel like okay to go do stuff because you're safe. You have a safety net.
I would say the most secure safety net that I have right now is you all out there. I really appreciate
like, where are we going with this?
You know where we're going. We're going with our listeners.
Of course.
Thank you, listeners, for listening to us, listen to each other and talk.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean
welcome.
That from the bottom of my heart. I'm not talking to you, Doug.
You're welcome, Kenzie. I'm glad I provided this time for you.
Thank you for having me here. I will thank you for having me here, Doug.
Oh,
this has been nice. I finally feel comfortable. What?
I finally feel like it's nice to talk to you.
No, that is absolutely not what I'm saying. I finally feel comfortable and I'm having fun with this. How about that?
How much sweating were you doing?
That's the thing. I'm not schwitzing anymore. Okay. I used to a lot. So now I'm like, okay, this is cool.
You don't even need the OxyClean anymore.
Oh, I need the OxyClean.
All right.
I'm a clumsy person.
We will Oxy see you next week. And in the meantime, you can Oxy leave us a review wherever you leave reviews for podcasts. I wish we had
video sometimes. And this holding up your flaily arms.
That's coming soon. That's coming soon. We're going to video us and put us up on YouTube. No, that would terrify you.
Look at me. I've carved new ski trails,
You're wearing
Doug.
Thereware. You got the cardigan.
I could do that. I could do it. I could level up at some point.
We might just level up. Until then, we will be at this level with you guys next week.
Just in your ears.
Bye.
Bye-bye.